It is my first time. There's two first things. I'm waiting for my brother to come in. There are. Am I laggy right now? This is the first time. There's two first things that I'm doing. Hey Pat, what's up? Am I laggy?
No, no, you're pretty clear to me.
Okay, okay. Because on my side it looks laggy. So there's two things that my first. One of them is going live on YouTube, as and having a guest, and thank you Pat for being my first guest on my live YouTube. And the second thing is, hey Joanne, how's it going? Good morning. The second thing is, I've never done a live this early before, and all thanks to Pat. Hey Joanne, thanks for joining. It's early, right, Joanne? Yeah, Pat, how's it going? So if anybody doesn't know who this special person is, it's my brother. He's my rock. He's my best friend, and he's just been, he's been there for me ever since we were kids. So, and he's still with me, even though he's all the way from Hong Kong. He's pretty far away. So, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, Pat. Hi, DJ. How are you doing? Thanks for joining. Thank you for joining. Here's my brother, Pat Lee. He's gonna introduce
What's
himself.
up? Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing? Yeah, I'm Pat, Roger's brother. I'm in Hong Kong right now, and we're doing a live, and he asked me to come on board, and here I am.
It's what time is it there in Hong Kong now? It's like
It's around 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock p.m. Yeah,
yes.
on Saturday night.
So my brother and I, we Joanne and can you see the chat, Pat?
I see I can't see like who's in, but I see like the chat scrolling, or when people type, I can see.
Oh, okay, so you can see that Joanne and DJ said hi. And John is here. Hey John, how's it going? Glad for you to be here.
What's up,
So
John?
if anyone just joined, Pat is from Hong Kong. I am from Toronto. He's on the other side of the world. So good morning to everyone that's had just waken up, and good evening to those that are on the other side of the world. And so, if you don't know much about my story, hey Farhana, you made it too. Good morning. I know it's weird to see me this early, right? Uh, oh, hi both for you from South Africa. Now that's a place. Hey Diana, I need to go to South Africa. I heard great things about great things about South Africa. But so I don't know if you guys know my story about the time because at that time when I started to figure out that I had anxiety and I was getting depressed. Pat had already moved to Hong Kong, so it was very like I spoke with him every day, but it was it would have been nice if he was here in person. So one of the things that hey Shell, good morning, nice for you to join. I know it's early. I'm glad you just made it because I'm just explaining the story about my brother and the time when I was going through my anxiety and depression. So the thing was when I started to notice that I had anxiety, one of the things I didn't want to do was tell my family that I was going through a very hard time, right? And obviously I wanted to tell my brother so bad, but the thing was he was so busy with work. He was all the way in Hong Kong, and I didn't want to, kind of like worry him too much. Just like with my mom, I didn't want to tell my mom about my problems and stuff like that. So I didn't tell my mom at all. So it was really hard keeping it as a secret. Can you hear me, guys? You can hear me, right, Pat?
Yep.
Okay. So, but it got so bad, right, that I had to reach out to someone. And the first person I always thought of that I was going to tell was my brother. So I called him up one day. I said, Pat, I'm in trouble. And he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I was like, I think I'm sick, right? And he freaked out. He was just like, because, ever since from childhood, he's never really seen me in a state where I was in a really dark space, right? But I told him what happened to me. I hit my head, had a concussion, and this concussion led to anxiety and depression. And I said, I need help. And hey, Jillian, good evening. Both watching from Taiwan. Wow. So I think you're at the same time as Pat right now. It's 10 p.m. for you, right? So I called him as I was talking to him, and the first thing he said was, I'm coming. I'm going to drop everything. I don't care about work. I need to be there for you, right? So he did his best, and it took him, I think it was about 5 days, I think, Pat, where you had to wait for the ticket, right? I think.
Yeah.
And he came, and when I first saw him, when he arrived at my house, like I couldn't I couldn't help by myself but cry because I missed him so much. I hadn't seen him for so long, and to see him, like I was like, oh, thank God, there's help, right? So, why don't you let people know about that experience when I first initially contacted you about?
Well, I think what's interesting is that the it was about the night before or 2 nights before. I actually had a dream,
Mhm,
and I was sitting in like a gallery, and I was just there by myself, and there was kind of like ambient people in the background, and my father came into my dream, and he was wearing a black suit, and our father has passed away obviously at that time,
yeah,
and my father was standing like right behind me, and I turned over and I said like, oh dad, what are you doing here? And then he said, you have to contact your brother because he's very sick. And yeah, and then we had some other kind of conversation. I don't remember exactly, but I remember that particular time when he actually said that, your brother's sick, you need to contact him. So
yeah, it's pretty weird.
I didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was just a dream or whatever. But then a day after or 2 days after, that's when Roger called me. He said, "I need to talk to you. Something very urgent." And then I said, "Okay, sure." So when I picked up the phone, he told me that he was very sick, and that and I said, "What happened?" He said, "Oh, I fell and slipped, and then I fell into like a concussion, and I was knocked out for a while, and then I woke up, and I was like, 'Did you tell mom?' And he was like, 'No, I haven't told anyone yet.' And I said, 'What's wrong?' And he told me about all these like problems that he was having with his like his vision and his the back of his head and his spinal column. And he said he was having a lot of weird kind of sensory system like
Sensations.
issues, and
Yeah.
he was panicking very heavily. So I said, "Oh, I better book a flight and and fly over to back to Toronto." So I booked a flight like literally that day, and I wasn't able to book a flight until like 4 or 5 days later, and then yeah, and I went home, and
I
when
think
I
you
went back to
told.
Toronto, sorry.
I think before you actually arrived to Toronto, I think you told mom, right? Because you just wanted her to be prepared because she'd be like, "Why is Pat coming back all of a sudden?" Right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
at that,
I don't remember, but I think I did tell her because it'd be kind of weird by me showing up,
yeah,
like and her
exactly.
visiting. So I must have. I'm pretty sure I told her just like gently, like, I think Roger's sick, and I'm gonna
Hmm.
fly back and see how he's doing.
Hmm.
So yeah, and then at that moment, I was quite worried. I was really busy at that time, and
Yeah,
I was just had so many projects going on. So, but I knew that this was very important for Roger. So I said, okay, I'm gonna book my flight, and I'm gonna head over like ASAP. So, yeah, and then when I landed in Toronto, yeah, he was quite he looked really banged up. Like he was very emotional. He was very going through a very. I could see that he was going through a very very difficult time, and that he's been spending a lot of time thinking and analyzing his kind of his issues and stuff. And it was really difficult to see him like that because I've never seen him so depressed. I've never seen him so agitated about something, and I knew something was very very wrong with him, and that we needed to take him to we need to take him to the hospital or something, or get him some help.
yeah.
So I was doing a lot.
That time I still didn't see. I didn't even check myself in. I don't think to the hospital, or I really didn't want to see any professional help at the time because I
Yeah.
actually thought I was going to heal like at first, right? But eventually things got worse. So.
Yeah.
And I remember Pat was telling me every single day, he's like, dude, man, you have to go to emergency, man. Cause I was like having panic attacks and he was looking at me and he didn't know what to do, right? Cause I wouldn't even know what to do if I saw someone with a panic attack, right? I mean, the first thing I would say was, you got to go check it out, right? So,
Hmm.
eventually, it happened, right? Pat, remember that morning I woke up and you came downstairs and you saw me lying down on the floor, face first. Remember that? And I was just
Yeah.
like, that day I thought that was my last day, honestly. Like I was like, oh, this is the last time I'm going to see everybody and blah blah blah. I never had a panic attack so bad, and that's when Pat's like, dude, you got to go, and I did. So yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
It was definitely a really scary experience because I think like I didn't really know what was going to happen or what we had to do, but I just tried to keep things as positive as possible and try to look at things from I try to keep the kids positive and
Yeah, it was
just
tough.
try to, try to balance everything. And it was really tough because, at that time you were really, really, what do they call it? Like when you're going through a serious panic mode, and he was like yelling and screaming and just all kinds of things was coming out of him, and it was like it didn't even seem like my own brother. It's like I was like dealing with something that was completely um really, I felt that wasn't very normal, um
Yeah,
and it was very difficult.
I was a completely like different person. Like, right, Pat? If you saw me like compared to from today to how I was like 4 or 5 years ago, it was just like
Yeah,
completely different person, right? And that's the thing about anxiety and depression. That's what it can do to you. It's scary because I never thought that I would ever be in a situation like that where my whole life could transform like that. And I'm not going to say in an instant, right? But like in a short period of time, I saw my life collapse, right? And it's scary to
yeah,
think that way, right? And and that's why after I healed myself, I know that there's so many people out there that are feeling that right now, and I think it's so important that people understand what they need to do. Hey, everybody that said hi in the chat. Robert, how are you doing? All the way from England. Hi, how are you doing? Thank you for joining. And I know that a lot of people that are dealing with it right now are still trying to figure out whether they're going to be able to get out of this darkness, right? I mean, right, Pat? Like I'm like a
yeah.
lot of people in Hong Kong, and you've seen a lot of people, right? That are experiencing the same things, right? And it's tough to see them like that, right?
Yep, that's right. Well, I mean, like it's happening all over the world. I mean, I think with COVID and I
Oh,
think a
for
lot of
sure.
people. I think it's really important that people communicate, because sometimes when you're feeling, just this is just from my own personal experience and dealing with Roger's situation.
Hmm.
Sometimes when you have something like COVID, people don't really communicate. And I think that when you're going through a lot of stress and anxiety and you're feeling really down, it's really important to try to communicate with other people or try to keep your mind focused on something that will kind of pull you out of that thought process. Because
Right.
on an average, I would say, like, 70 to 80% of our thoughts, and we have about 60,000 thoughts, different thoughts every single day. And a lot of those thoughts are from the previous day. And I would say that 80% of those thoughts are negative,
Deeper negative.
and very small portion of those, I believe it was in 2005, it was Ralph Smart that basically mentioned that in 2005 there was a study that most of our thoughts are actually very negative. I would just want to talk a little bit about what I've just experienced about your ego, right? Like,
Yep.
the ego is not necessarily meant for you to live with the ego every single day. Ego is usually there. It's there to protect you. It's to protect the body, and sometimes it gets in the way of you trying to do the things that you really want to do, or
Like
it
a
makes you feel.
survival mode, right?
Yeah, it puts you on this survival mode and it creates all these negative thoughts. So at
Hmm.
some point in time, you have to, stop that train from, moving too fast, and you have to just try to find ways to kind of regulate, and calm your nervous system, calm everything down. Now, the you know people, when they're suffering from depression and suffering from anxiety, they usually go through a very lengthy process of thoughts. One thought leads to another thought, that leads to another thought, and you start to move in the direction of looking at the worst case scenario. And that's pretty normal for a human being, so don't judge yourself. Like, if you're going through that experience where you are looking at worst case scenarios, so you have to kind of stop the trains and just say, take a deep breath. Breathing is very important, because breathing puts you in the now moment. It puts you in a position where you have to focus on being in this moment, rather than your mind just kind of spinning like a hamster wheel. And then once you start to learn how to do things to kind of control it, then you can start to embed more positive thoughts in. So if you're finding yourself going through this kind of, you're looking at things always in a negative way, and you find yourself spinning, just take a deep breath, breathe as much as you can, and just let air kind of go through your lungs, because your lungs will keep it'll you'll start building this momentum where you start having this very hard breathing pattern. So you, first of all, you have to try to calm itself down. And I know it's difficult. Some people are in life and death situations. Some people have very serious health issues. Some people have relationship problems. Some people have financial problems. Some people have, like, it could be something that, it could be something so simple. And honestly, it doesn't matter. Like, it could be something very serious, or it could be something that's very simple. Like, it could be just like, oh, I left my wallet at the office, and there's no one there, and I can't wait until tomorrow morning or something like that. So there, it could be anything, and it doesn't really matter what it is. Don't judge it. It's, if you're worried about it, if it's something that is piquing your concern, and your fear starts to, like, come in, then take a deep breath, relax, try to calm yourself down, try to be in the moment, and try to focus. Okay, okay, and worst case scenario, usually worst case scenarios, when you're feeling anxiety and fear, usually when it comes to your thought process of worst case scenario, it doesn't, normally it does not happen, and so you don't know what's in the future. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, but you just have to come to the realization that there is at least a 50% chance that it's not going to happen, and that's a really good chance that it most likely won't happen, right? So you just, and sometimes, like, in this life, sometimes you have this thought process, of, like, thinking of the same thing over and over again, and the universe kind of, like, forces you to somehow experience it to a certain degree, that you overcome it, and eventually you will overcome that kind of, like, that fear. So when Roger was going through his process, when I saw him, in the back of my head, I kind of knew that he was going to overcome this, but it's just going to take some time, and he just had to go through a lot of, a physical recovery and a mental recovery, and it was very, very difficult to get him to do certain things. So I was, making him juice, like I was juicing, like, strawberries, blueberries, bananas, just trying to keep his
Oh, my
body as
mom,
healthy as possible.
mom's here. Hey, mom.
Oh, okay.
My mom's awake. Yeah, yeah, he was making me like every single morning he would spend about like 30 minutes making me this he was juicing with all the fruits and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was just doing whatever it took, right? And that's why, I thank him so much for doing that. And also, like, as when Pat was talking about how when you continue to think of with one thought consistently, right? Especially if it's something like the worst case scenario, like he was talking about, that is exactly what happened to me. Because when I had my concussion and I had these symptoms, I kept telling myself that I've never. It's like this sensation is going to last for the rest of my life, right? So then I started to like watch videos on, like, what is the worst case scenario, like what's going to happen to me, right? And the more I watched, like, that negative content, the more I started to believe that, hey, you know what, maybe there is no cure for this. Maybe your whole body is going to be, is going to have this sensation, right? So the more you think of that one thought, and it's the law of attraction, right? The more you think of a specific thought, the more it's going to become a reality. Maybe it didn't become a reality to me, that my whole body was, I was getting those sensations, but it felt like it. And so the whole like, what you need to do is you have to pull yourself away from thinking about that specific thought, and then you have to start thinking of something else that's going to make you feel that, hey, you know what, my life isn't that bad. No, this isn't going to happen. And that's where anxiety starts from, right? Overthinking and creating all these things that may not, probably won't even happen. Like everything that I thought about prior to me cleaning up my basement, you guys know my basement story. All those thoughts that I was thinking about, like literally 95% didn't come true, right? And that's what we do. We worry about what's going to happen in the future, but little do we know that our future doesn't have to be that way, right? Right? I mean, like, we do not know what's going to happen in the future. So then I started telling myself that, and I said, my life doesn't have to be bad. I can see my mom smile again. I can see my brother happy. I know I can go out with my kids. I can do all of that. Why can't I? Why is my mind telling me that I can, that I'm not able to? Right. And once you start telling yourself that, hey, you know what, I can do it. You know, I can see my happiness. I can overcome this darkness. I can get my life back. Right. But the thing is, you have that decision. You have to make that decision, and you have to basically tell yourself, what are you going to do every single day to make that become your reality? Right, Pat? Law of attraction. We learned law of attraction over
Yeah, I mean,
10 years ago.
I think it's really important. Like when people are going through a difficult, when they're suffering from anxiety or depression or just feeling really down about something,
Mhm.
um, you the you have to kind of force yourself to take one step. I mean, one
Definitely.
step forward, and make a list of things that you don't have to go too far out. But what are some things that you can do to take that one step? It could be just like, okay, today I'm going to get a haircut. You know what I mean? Or today I'm going to like just walk outside in the forest or whatever and just take a breather. Just do whatever it takes to make that first step. And once you take that first step, it kind of builds off of each other, like in
Yep.
terms of the energy, right? So
Mhm.
and then the next day you might say, okay, I'm gonna get a haircut, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, or just slowly do things that you want to do. um, for me, whenever I feel like crap, I meditate. I try to clear my mind because I know that there's a lot of thoughts that perhaps are not I'm not thinking like appropriately or whatever, or I'm like overthinking something. So I'll like spend a lot of time meditating and trying to clear my mind. And when I do that, I'm kind of in the moment, in this kind of now moment. So I'm focused on just trying to clear stuff out, clear it out of my system, and just try to and that could take days, or sometimes like when people are really down, it takes months, and sometimes it takes years. Sometimes when we have someone that maybe we love that has passed away, or if you're in a relationship and the person leaves your life, or a divorce or something, or anything that is perhaps like tragic in your life. These are all very tough things, and life itself is extremely challenging. And as human beings, it's going to get even more challenging in the future, especially with AI technology. Um, you know, uh, Becoming more relevant in our way of life, and the growth of AI technology. So it's going to affect like jobs and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that we could worry about. We could worry about all kinds of things, but the most important thing is that be grounded, and really focus on your inner self, because focusing on your inner self will enable you to really understand who you are. When you go through difficult times in your life, and believe me, everyone does. Roger and I have been through like hell and back on many occasions. Some of them were together and some of them were separate. But everyone goes through very, very difficult moments in their life, and sometimes we it takes time for us to persevere them and to really overcome the difficult times that you go through. Whatever it is, take it step by step. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. I would say, like, try not to put so much pressure on yourself, but take it step by step and do things bit by bit upon, like, the way you want to overcome it. But set a target goal. I know that I'm going through this process. I'm having anxiety, or I know I'm going suffering from depression, and I know that I have to overcome this. So what can I do right now? Even though I cannot control the future, I cannot control a lot of things that are outside of me, but what I can do is I can control this. And if I can control myself, then what can I do right now that can change my way of thinking, this kind of sadness or depression that I'm feeling? So that's
Yeah.
what I've kind of learned from, going through watching my own personal experiences, and also watching Rogers go through his experience. And remember, like I flew back to Toronto like um, more than just once. I think I
Mhm.
went back 3 times,
Yeah.
back and forth.
The time I left my house and then I moved over to mom's place. Remember?
Yeah,
That was when got really bad, because I actually left my family. It's the first time I actually was away from my kids, and I actually I actually said, Mom, can I move to your place? Because I can't stand living at my house. And I was just at that point, that's when I really felt like a monster. Like I'm like, how did I end up leaving my family? You know, and I could just look at myself in the mirror, and I was just, I couldn't even recognize myself as I was looking at myself in the mirror. Even when Pat came to see me, I'm sure when he looked at me, he was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe how much you transformed." Right? How much your mental health can affect you, not just up here, but physically. Like I just look like a completely different person, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that was just a really tough thing to go through. But you know, focus like you know, as what Pat was talking about, like you know, focusing that energy on yourself. That all has to do with like loving yourself. But you know, if you watched my video yesterday that I posted on my page, I was talking about how focus is number one. I would say loving yourself is the most important thing. Okay, guys, like it is definitely at the top of the list. But in order to get yourself to a situation where you can actually start loving yourself, you have to clear what's up here, because everything starts up in your mind. And when your mind starts to tell you how your life is, like how to run your life, and these are the things that are the negative things, right? These are the things that you don't want to listen to. Those are the things. That's when you have to really step in there, and you have to really organize your thoughts, like separate what are the good thoughts, what are the bad thoughts, right? And once you're able to actually divide it and start focusing on, hey, you know what, I don't have to think about this. You know, whatever this is telling me and telling me that, you know, I'm never going to overcome this darkness, it's not true. You got to start focusing on the that little voice that's telling you, hey, you know what, don't give up, have faith, have a little bit of hope, you know, like believe in yourself, you know, you have the strength to overcome, you know, life's challenges. Those are the voices that you need to listen to, right? Because the more you focus your attention on those things, it's like, are you going to listen to your best friend telling you that that someone that they believe in you? Or are you going to listen to, you know, your worst enemy telling you that you're useless, that you know that you're never going to be successful, right? You have that choice. So make that choice to listen, really fine tune and really focus on those voices that are giving you the positive information, right?
Well,
And the
I
more
think
that,
I was just gonna
go on.
say, like, I think a lot of times, like, people have a lot of people like have a hard time, like, trying to. They're always looking. A lot of people look outside of themselves for love, right? And when
Yeah,
you're
because they're
in
not
that, when
focusing on
you're
themselves.
yeah, when you're always looking for recognition, or when you're looking always looking for people to kind of like, say, hey, you did a good job, or you did, like you look great or whatever,
Yep.
then you're always looking at outside of you to feel good, right? And then when you're always waiting for that next moment to feel good. It could be like, okay, if I won't feel good until I buy that car. I won't feel good until I get that $100,000 check every single month. I'm not going to be happy until like someone buys me flowers. I'm not going to be happy until this. It's all like this stuff that's like outside of you. But when you look at like when you look at the fact that you just like focus on yourself, like loving yourself and just
Yep.
being, take a deep breath and be like, you know what? This life is like maximum is probably like 100 years, you know what I mean? Life is like really short, and you just got to live every single moment just appreciating whatever you can find to appreciate. It could be, how this world is just, there's a lot of crazy stuff that's happening in the world, but there's also equally, if not more, beautiful things that are happening in the world too, right? I've seen so many, when you just even look at an insect, or when you look at a tree, or when you look at the sky, or when you look at, just, there's so many things to look at that are so beautiful. Why are we focusing so much on all this negative stuff that's outside of our control? But when you come to the realization that you are beautiful, you are awesome, you do have the capabilities to live your dreams, to reach your goals, to succeed in life, if all it takes is for you to turn that tap on, or click on that button and push yourself. It's going to take a lot of work, but you just drive yourself to the best possible life you can possibly have, to have the most incredible experience that you can have. And I guarantee you, because I studied law of attraction for 13 years, that if you keep staying persistent and feeling great and loving yourself, you will see your life change completely. because I don't want to get too much into it, but when you look at a positive thought, it's 10 times more powerful than a negative thought in terms of law of attraction, in terms of the scientific uh, prospect of how it actually works. You know, Greg Braden talks about, like, the heart pumping, and it magnetizes things and it attracts things back to you. So when you have a thought, it actually vibrates and it moves out there in the universe, and then it comes back to you. Well, a positive thought is 10 times more powerful than a negative thought. And it doesn't necessarily even mean that the negative thought is going to manifest. It just means that you're going to keep going through the cycle of like difficulty before you actually get there. Now, remember, the universe knows exactly what you want in life because you've been replaying it in your mind over and over again. I want that car. I want that relationship. I want that amount of money. I want that so on, so on. So the universe already knows that it wants you. But if you keep squeezing that door, if you make that gap very slim, it's very difficult for the universe to build that energy into that little gap that you have held because of the negativity that you're not allowing it to open. But when you have positive thoughts, it widens and it opens that channel for you to be able to receive the energy and for it to come. A lot of people have like a lot of negative thoughts and are afraid, oh, I'm going to manifest something negative if I keep having these negative thoughts. No, that's not true, because I've seen people like have go through very difficult times, and they tell me a lot of things like, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, but none of it has ever happened. Instead, they went through that hurdle, they overcame it, they're still alive, they're able to and then they manifest abundance. Like, for example, like if you're having a really crappy relationship, you're going through a very difficult time, maybe going through a divorce or something like that. Well, sometimes the universe kind of puts you in these situations to basically relieve yourself from this relationship because there's someone 10 times better that's after that person. So you know just when you think like the worst scenario is happening or is happening in your life right now, maybe it's a blessing, because after you overcome this, just like when Roger slipped and fell and went through like years of depression, anxiety, when he overcame it, then he started writing quotes, and then he started to get a lot of interest in people like reading his quotes, and now he's doing what he absolutely loves. And if he didn't go through that process of getting into that accident or overcoming it, he wouldn't be able to express his full unconditional love to the world as he is doing right now. And I know my brother since I was born, and I know that when he was ever since he was young, the reason why we're such close friends is because my brother is just pure love. He's just pure love. He lives his life to fulfill other people's, to give people love, and to help as many people as possible. And that's why he's meant to do this. And I'm really proud of him for seeing where he has come, the darkness that I've seen him overcome. And trust me, if my brother can do it, like, anyone can do it, man,
Yep.
because my brother was
Absolutely.
having such a difficult time. He had health issues, mental issues. He had he has 5 kids. He's got so much to take care of, and he struggled with all that and still was able to come on top. And sometimes, yeah, it is tough. I've had friends that have weren't able to overcome it, and their lives ended. But it's also because they didn't empower themselves
Mhm.
to really try to overcome it, to overcome their anxiety and their fears and their depression. You can do it, you will do it, and you just got to keep your you just got don't judge yourself when you're going through a difficult time, when you're stressed out, when you feel you're suffering from depression. You just got to kind of anchor it and say, okay, I'm experiencing this kind of difficulty in my life, I'm experiencing a tough time, I know this, but I'm going to take this step, this step, this step, this step, so that by next month I've achieved all these things. Because when you're going through depression, you feel like there's nothing to achieve, and that you're not doing anything on a day-to-day basis because you're not achieving any. You feel like you're not achieving anything. So even if the mind is really tricky, it's like even if you achieve something very very small, like get a haircut, or or just walk outside, the brain goes, oh, I did something that was different from yesterday. So then it kind of your mind plays off of it, and the ego's going to say, no, no, you didn't do anything, successful. All you did was walk along. But there's a part of your brain that basically kind of, taps you in the back of the head and says, no, you did something really different today. Keep going, keep doing it. And then you just keep that momentum over and over again until you go through your own kind of personal journey of ascension, and then you let go of all those fears. And trust me, if you're going through a difficult time, if you're suffering from, a situation or whatever, when you overcome it, you're going to be 50 times stronger than you were before. You're going to look back and you're going to say, man, that was freaking hard. I went through so much craziness and stuff like that. And, and I went through like a series of depression, but if you were to see it again, you're going to look at the situation completely different. You're not going to look at it as you did, when you were feeling really down. When you overcome it, you're going to be like, I can't even believe I was upset about that, or I can't even believe I was feeling that way, because you experienced it and you don't have to
Mhm.
experience it again. And that's the beauty of this human journey, is that there's a lot of things that you can be fearful about, but at the same time, life is this one journey, and we all know that, you know there's a certain limit to life. So we just have to try to do the best we can to live the best that we possibly can, without judging anyone else, without judging anyone, and without judging yourself. The most important is, don't judge yourself.
Mhm.
Just be proud that you're alive, proud that you've survived what you have gone through. Be proud of yourself for having the experience that you've had, and that you're still alive, that you can make a difference. And once you make a difference in your life, then you can make a difference in other people's lives.
That's why, like I look back, I still do. I do it like almost daily. Like I look back to see when like how my whole journey started, and I look back and I see myself as a different person, as a person that almost gave up, you know, that had no hope, that didn't believe in himself, that felt that he was weak, that felt that, that I would never find my joy and happiness again, right? And then I fast forward, I'm like, wait a second, like I was able to do it. I was able to figure out a way, even though I had, like professional help. I was able to, because I didn't learn any of this at school. They don't teach you this at school. I don't know. They probably do now, but back in the day, they didn't teach you how you're supposed to deal with your mental health. What happens if you one day, if you start having anxiety, or you become severely depressed, right? How are you going to escape yourself from that, right? And so I had to start from scratch, like literally from scratch, because I hit rock bottom, right? Um, so that's why, like, when I wake up in the morning every single day, I think about everybody. I think about the people that were in my situation 4 years ago. What can I say today? What are the things that I can help promote to let people know that, hey, you don't have to, give up on yourself, right? There is absolutely, there's so much potential in you. But I know that when your mind gets to a level where you feel like you're at the bottom, you just don't think that you're going to be able to succeed in anything. And so your mind basically shuts off, right? And you just allow these negative thoughts to attack you every single day. Like it's nonstop, like continuously, right? So, when that time, if you watch my videos or you heard about it, when I decided that, wait a second, every single day I'm waking up and every single day is this exact same thing. Like I'm doing everything the same, right? Nothing's changing. You know why it's not changing? Because I wasn't making any changes. I was doing the exact same thing every day. I wake up in the morning, I pop an antidepressant, I start pacing back and forth the house, I start crying, I start yelling, and then I go back on the couch and I start lying there again, right? So that's why I talk about my basement story, how crucial, how important that was, um, that made me change the way I think, to change my routine, because that gave me the motivation to wake up every single morning, to tell myself that I had a goal, I have a purpose. Prior to me telling myself to clean up that basement, I had no purpose. I had no goals. I had nothing. I was not motivated. I wasn't determined to do anything. And it was because I was creating that world for myself, right? So, after I cleaned up that basement, I realized that, hey, you know what? When I started to focus on a specific thing, that during that whole time when I was cleaning that basement, I wasn't even thinking about all those negative thoughts that was, ruining my life. I was so busy focusing on getting this job done because I wanted to feel accomplished, right? The feeling of accomplishment is so powerful because what it's going to do is going to it's going to be like a ripple effect, right? So just say today you decide, hey, you know what? I'm gonna find that room. I'm gonna clean it up, right? Absorb that feeling of accomplishment after you clean up that room, right? It's gonna be such a great feeling because what it's gonna do, it's gonna make you want to accomplish something else, which means that, hey, you know what? I want to challenge myself to see if I can do it. So when I was going through my sensations, I didn't want to touch anything. I didn't want to do anything because, like even if I tapped my hand on the top of the table, my arm would be numb. So I was like literally a bubble boy. So I didn't work out. Didn't do house chores and whatever. But after I cleaned up that basement, I said, you know what? I have nothing to lose. There's only one way I'm going to find out, and that's to try. Right. So I started working out again. I started doing house chores. I started doing all the things that I wanted to do before. And every time I succeeded, right, overcoming one of my fears, because they all became fears of mine, right? And I'm sure you have a lot of fears too as well, right? Once you start to when you overcome that fear, you're going to feel like, hey man, you know what, maybe I can conquer another one of those things, and it makes your life a little bit more exciting, right? It's like you're starting to tell yourself, that you are capable of doing many many things. And once you start accomplishing more and more things, hey man, what else is next, right? And that's the same thing with life. When life throws you something, and it's unexpectedly, just like how I fell and hit my head, you're just like, why is this happening to me? And oh my gosh, how long is this going to last? And blah 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 blah, right? But again, what Pat was saying, once you overcome a certain part of your life, and I know and sometimes some of them are going to be really dark, right? When you actually overcome it, you're going to be like, whoa, holy crap, like I'm actually that strong, and you're going to take that strength, you're going to take whatever you learned from that experience, and then you're going to be prepared. It's like, every time a soldier goes to war, he gets some sort of experience and he becomes that much stronger, he becomes that much wiser, right? And then he'll be ready for the next battle, right? Everything starts with, you have to train, everything starts with taking those little steps. So, like, even though, like I said yesterday, even though you take those little steps and it doesn't seem like you're going anywhere, you actually are. You really are. Right, Pat?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, like I was looking at the someone wrote about how trauma um created like their sadness or their their depression or whatever. And
Hmm.
trauma is definitely something that is very difficult to overcome. It doesn't matter like whether something, an accident happened, or if it was a relationship or whatever. But it is a very difficult thing to overcome because the thought is thinking about all these things, because it was some kind of like very real sensory experience that you had that kind of shook you. And every everything that we who we are is based a lot about our experiences with our five senses, ever since we were born. And sometimes we have to retrain our thought process of things that went wrong in our life. We've all have experienced some kind of trauma. On some people have experienced trauma and much more higher levels than myself. But what I can say with some traumas that I've experienced, these things take time to overcome. It's not going to be an overnight thing. But the most important thing is that there's no specific way on how to overcome your particular trauma. Only you know how to really like overcome it. And it's really by practicing, learning, studying, um, whatever possible method. As long as you have a desire to overcome that trauma, you definitely will overcome it in time. And it's but I understand like everyone suffers all different types of trauma, and it does take time to overcome. Just don't put too much pressure on yourself that, oh, I have to overcome it by this amount of time or whatever. Sometimes you just need to sit down, relax, and just think to yourself like, what can I do right now where I can just change my definition of what that trauma means to me, and then just slowly etch it bit by bit every single day. Just find something that will help you take your mind off of it, to help you overcome it, and just try to keep your mind as positive as possible, and really just try to do things that take your mind off of it until you get to a point where you're like, you start to feel better, because it does it
Welcome,
takes
Daniel.
time to overcome any kind of trauma, you know what I mean? And um and so yeah, it's because the trauma is something that you experienced, that you felt, that that you felt in, you could have felt in a way, wow, I can't believe that happened to me. You're still in, sometimes you could still be in the shock mode for a very 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 long time, like when people go to war and then
Mhm.
their leg gets blown off, some people, like when they come back home, they and they're trying to live a normal life, and they can't. It takes years before they really accept the fact that their leg is no longer there anymore. But there's ways to try to heal that inner wound, and the physical wound, and also the emotional wound that you have. There are ways, whether getting a replacement leg, or now with technology, they have like things that attach to your sensory system so you can actually walk more normally again. There's ways to really overcome it, but really it's the effort that you put into that's really going to change that trauma. The effort and the desire to really want to like overcome it.
Yeah.
And when you
Like
take those steps, you will.
like when like when I that step that I slipped on, like every single day when I looked at it, it scared the crap out of me because like it always reminded me of me landing and hitting my head, and it was a very scary moment for me, right? But I took that incident and I started to blame other people, right? That's when I started to have my triggers, right? Like I started blaming Michaela because she was my niece that I had to drive home. And then I started blaming her family. If it wasn't for my sister-in-law giving birth to Michaela, then she wouldn't have, I started creating all these weird things. Like, if she wasn't born, then I wouldn't have slipped on that step. If I didn't drive her home that day, I wouldn't have slipped on the step. So I started creating all this, and they were all triggers for me. And every time that someone mentioned her name, I would just go crazy. But I had to make peace with that. I that was killing me, right? And so when you start to pinpoint what are those things that are actually your triggers, you know I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult to overcome any kind of trauma, or or any specific trigger that you have, right? But once I discovered that making peace with that trigger, like I started to forgive. I didn't really need to forgive her because she didn't do anything wrong, but I told myself there's no point in me getting angry at her because it wasn't her fault that I slipped. There's no why am I blaming her mother, right, for my accident? And when once I start doing that, there is so much peace. I mean, that's what we're looking for too, is some sort of inner peace, right? Or a peace of mind. And what we need to find out what that thing is to clear that, when I talk about crying a lot really helps. That I cried every single day, and I'm not ashamed to say it because crying is okay. Crying was created for a reason, right? It's to release that inner pain so that you can feel better, right? And I was able to do that. And once I released all that I could, like all my anger, that came from my rage fits and all the tears that I shed, I felt like a completely different person, right? I discovered that I didn't even know that I had that much pain inside me. Like our childhood wasn't bad at all, right, Pat? It was just it went pretty smoothly. So there's nothing that I can say through our childhood like, oh, our parents treated us bad, or we had arguments all the time, or we had like really bad friends. We didn't have any of that. But I think it depends on
But we,
everybody,
we had
right?
we had our share of we had our share of craziness when we were teens.
We
That's for sure.
did, we did. But I wouldn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't go back and say that it was traumatic, like it affected us so that we would think about it, as of today. It wasn't that bad, right?
Yeah.
So but I
But
think
I
what
also
it
want to talk.
was. Hmm?
I just wanted to mention too that I think it's one thing too that's really important is like when you're going through a tough time, like just through anxiety and stuff like that, or depression. It's like
Ooh,
one of the key very important things is to stay healthy, because the food that you eat, the stuff that you put in your mouth, is going to really alter and change your your functionality mentally and also
for
physically.
sure.
So if you're really struggling like physically, um, I I mean I watch a lot of like dietary, like just like all kinds of things online and stuff like that. And I know like celery juice is by far like the top. I've tried it myself. I did a full detox, for a whole month because I have like eczema and stuff like that. So I was juicing on like just pure celery, just juicing celery. That's it. And my skin started to change, and just started feeling a lot better. But intaking like vitamins and the appropriate minerals, that's going to change your mindset too. You're going to get like a high off of just like all that energy that's like circulating through your blood and your heart and stuff like that. And so it's really important to intake the right diet, the right foods, fruits, vegetables, try to stay off all that you know sugar and stuff that doesn't really like help your body. It gets you
Soft drinks.
super ex- it gets you super excited for a bit, but it's actually really unhealthy for your body. So just try to intake as many like vegetables, fruits, eat fish, like bring that bring as much nutrients into your body, as much as you can. Not saying like cut off wine completely and everything, because I'm a wine drinker as well, but
Not
I
me.
do. Yeah, well, yeah, you're pretty lucky.
Just coffee,
um,
guys. You guys know that
yeah,
coffee.
I'm a coffee drinker, and also I drink alcohol too, but I'm not like a heavy alcohol drinker,
Yeah.
but still I try to like eat as much fruits, as much vegetables as you can, and you're gonna feel like 10 times better like once you start doing it on a regular basis.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I cut off like and I like cookies, muffins, like I just can't like my yesterday Aiden, my son, he was just like, "Hey daddy, I baked a cookie. Do you want it?" And I didn't want to say no, so I was just like, "I'll take a little bite of it." I think it's still here. I still haven't eaten it yet. I the only sugar that I actually do have is actually in my coffee. So, I have like 4 cups of coffee a day. That's a lot of sugar intake, but I need coffee, right? But like coffee is like the I think is like the best invention in the world, right? Coffee really keeps you going. And I remember that time when when I was going through anxiety and depression, my doctor told me stop taking coffee. I was like, are you serious? Like I can't. But I tried it, didn't work. I think for some people it might work, but for me, I need my coffee because it keeps me going. It gives me energy, right? But I guess the one thing about it was that I was having trouble sleeping when I was going through my anxiety and depression, and drinking coffee didn't really help. But after taking 4 pills a day, I mean, after taking that much medication, I mean that you're definitely going to get knocked out. But definitely coffee is one of the things. And yes, and your health is so important. Like exercising, right? I talk about exercising a lot. Just do it, man. You have to, if loving yourself, there's so many things you can do, right? And one of them is taking care of your body, taking care of your health, exercising, right? Like you're gonna see such a big difference when you start doing. When I was going through that dark time, I lost about, how much weight do you think I lost, Pat? Like maybe like 15, 20 pounds. I look,
Mm, yeah, I mean, you lost a lot. I mean, you were like, so I've never seen you so skinny before, because most of the time you're like, you're working out all the time, right?
yeah.
So it's like when I saw you, like, especially the second time I went back home,
Yeah.
my God, you were like a completely different person. Like it looked
Hmm.
like your skin was like hanging off of your skull. Like you were really.
I,
And
I
I think
felt
I
like I
think it
was
was
70
like,
years old.
yeah, I just think it was like a combination of like everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just not taking care of myself at
You're
all.
smoking, you weren't exercising, you were, taking all kinds of medications and stuff, and it was
Yeah.
just, I think it was taking a toll on you. And yeah, it's crazy. Leslie, you're a completely different person than you were, back in those few years.
Mhm.
Um,
I
but
have those photos I showed on my page. The ones you took, the one you took with mom sitting beside me with her arm on my shoulders, and the one you took of me sitting in the. Remember, we were at the hospital, and we were at that waiting area outside with the trees and the bench and everything.
yeah,
That you
yeah.
took that photo. Yeah, I'm so glad you took those photos because I didn't want to take photos of myself during that time because I looked so horrible. But
Yeah, well,
luckily
I
Pat took those
actually,
photos.
like I didn't take a lot of photos, but I took some photos of like
Hmm.
the because I took those photos because I wanted to show you after when you've recovered,
Yeah,
like all these things that you went through to, to kind of remind yourself like how far you've gotten,
yeah,
from where you were. And I remember like there's a picture I took of, you and mom like sitting down on the porch,
yeah.
and
That's
I
what I
was
was
like
talking about.
standing in front of the French window and I took a picture of that. I remember the exact thought that I had in my head was, when Roger overcomes this, I'm going to show this to him. And I'm going to
And
show
you,
him that how down he was so that he will always remember never to go back down there again. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly.
Um, so like, I mean, we've all, man, I don't know how many times I've been through like such crazy times and so many obstacles like I feel like I've overcome. But some of the obstacles I went through were really tough. I think one of the
Mhm.
toughest things I seen was, our cousin when, after he passed away. It was the very first time I went to a funeral and he was like so young. When I saw that, that really messed up my head. It took me years to really like let that go, to overcome it. I had another friend just not too long ago, a few years ago, who took his life, and that was really hard on me. He was one of my best friends, and it was really hard because I didn't know anything about what he was feeling and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But when I had heard that he had, done that, that it took me, I still think about it every single day. It still hurts. And it's like sometimes I just cry because, I just can't believe that he did that or whatever or what he did. And it just like sometimes I just think about him and I'm like, you know, his smile and his laughter and everything. It's just so hard for me to let that go. So
Mhm.
but anyways, we all experience like hardship and difficulties, and it's just about how do we deal with it. The best is when you're able to, like, when something scary comes up and you're like, no, I'm not gonna let that make me feel fear. I'm not gonna let that put me down. I'm gonna have a good day, and I'm not, and I'm gonna resolve this issue, and I'm gonna like,
Right.
and everything's gonna be fine. When you have that, when you feel something negative, kind of, you gotta like stop it right away. You gotta not push it away, but accept it. Realize that it is a situation that needs to be under control, and you will, make it under control. You know, like, I know it's not an easy mindset to have, but you don't want it to kind of like roll, like again, that hamster wheel, just keep turning and turning and turning. um at some point in time, th- we just live in this human life. Like, at some point in time, you're gonna have to say to yourself, okay, enough's enough. I gotta get off the couch. I gotta start doing something. I gotta lift some weights. I gotta, maybe go to the grocery store, buy some super healthy food, buy a couple bananas, and like, just find a way to make that first move. That's the
Or even
hardest
taking
part.
walks. Walks. It was actually hard for me to go for walks during that time. I didn't want to go
Yeah.
out, right? Because I didn't want to see myself in public. But I mean, if you're at a point where you feel comfortable enough to actually go outside and get some fresh air, or if you have a dog, go for, take your dog out for a walk, or even, go out with family and friends and just enjoy the day, just so that you can occupy yourself. Because when you're alone and you just have nothing to do, guess what's going to happen? Your mind is like, hey, here's my opportunity to start talking bad stuff, right? So that's why, like, I say focus is so important, because when you start to occupy yourself, when you make your time useful, right? We all have at least 10 hours a day. What are you doing every single day that's going to make a difference tomorrow, right? If you're doing this exact same thing every single day, you're not going to see any change at all. And it's just going to seem like this whole thing is going to last forever. But once you start doing something different, something new, something challenging, something different, then that's like adding a new ingredient into this uh, thing that you want to create, right? And it makes such a difference, waking up in the morning to feel like you can't wait to start the day, that you can't wait to experience life, or you can't wait to find out how strong you really are. Like, these are the things that you want to start thinking about, instead of wake up in the morning, say, I don't even want to wake up. Like, we have a life. We're so lucky to be able to breathe today, to be able to have life, to have a chance to do something, right? So think about that when you wake up. Yeah, you know, I'm so grateful for my life. And the first thing you got to tell yourself is I'm so grateful I was able to wake up from a bed. First of all, I'm so grateful that I'm able to. I'm gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna have something to eat, right? And then, like, a lot of people, there's millions of people out there that can't even have one meal a day, you know, or they're sleeping on the streets, or whatever the case may be, right? So I had to do that. I had to look at other people's lives, you know, their misfortunes, because I had to remind myself and say, Roger, you are good. You know, you have a lot of things that many people don't have. So, you know, don't tell yourself that your life is bad. Don't tell you why are you saying that your life sucks, right? Why do you feel that way? So then I was like, yeah, you know what? I have kids, my brother's here, my sister's here, my mom's here every single day taking care of me. I should be happy. I should be so grateful. You know,
Yeah, I think
after I healed
that's
myself.
something that's really important, is that like, you know, if you're having a difficult time like trying to find, you know, y- trying to like, you know, find something that can resolve your problem right away, because that a lot of times it's like sometimes we really overthink because we're like trying to solve something, a problem or whatever. But sometimes, like, to encourage yourself, you have to, you know, to overcome these fears and anxieties from you overthinking. Sometimes you just have to be
Thank you for
thankful for
that.
what you have. You know, just be
Yes,
really
thank you.
thankful, because a lot of times it's like things are actually going pretty good for you. You know what I mean? But you just don't acknowledge like the beautiful things that are happening in your life right now. You know,
Hmm.
you're alive, you're healthy, you can still go to bed, wake up every single, you know, like when I wake up in the morning now, I'm just like, I'm gonna make every single second count. I know
For
that
sure.
there's gonna be perhaps difficulties coming my way. Maybe there's some roadblocks, maybe there's some hills, the mountains to climb, whatever it is. But every single day, I'm gonna make every single day count, because I know life is short, and I know that I want to be the best version of myself every single day. So today I'm gonna do this, tomorrow I'm gonna do that. But you know, I want like all my friends to be happy. I want all my, you know, business partners to be as happy as I can make them. I want, you know, my family to be healthy and strong. I'm going to put every ounce of my energy into just shooting positivity out of my aura, out of my energy field, to try to keep as much persistent. And I'm not saying that I don't have fears, and that I haven't suffered depression, and that I don't have anxiety. Everyone has these things, but it's like we have to try to really push through those feelings, those negative emotions. And that's really about like taking your ego and telling it to shut up, telling it to stop telling you all this bull, like it's, you know, all these lies, all these things that it's trying to convince you that that your ego is right, and that your, you know, your positive thoughts are wrong. That's not true. Your positive thoughts, if you really stick to them, they will lead you to the right path. They will take you on a journey that is like so much, like 10 times better than you can ever imagine. And it's the egoic mind, the mind of fear, and, you know, trying to force you to believe in things that aren't real, and it's trying to sway you towards that side, because it's just trying to protect you. It's not evil or dark or whatever. It's just trying to protect you. But it's not, you're not, you know, the ego is not supposed to like be there all the time. It's only supposed to be there when there's a tiger in front of you, when you're, you know, when you have like a potential accident that's gonna come, or when you're in a survival mode. You're not supposed, the ego is only supposed to, is supposed to chime in at that time. So do everything you can to reduce that egoic pressure that, you know, the ego is trying to like force down your throat, force in your mind, and just try to like, you know, listen to the heart center. Your heart knows exactly what you need. It knows exactly what food you need to eat. It knows exactly what you need to do when you wake up in the morning. It knows exactly how to treat your friends, your family, the people that you love, and it really understands you, your higher self. You know, your higher self understands you. The ego doesn't know you at all. It only tries to fool you. Um, so, you know, I think that I hope that, you know, I wish I can wave a magic wand and just make all my fears and everything disappear.
Everyone wants that.
Everyone wants it. Everyone wants like the, you know,
It'd
a
be too
magic wand.
easy.
Yeah, people want to like sit
Too
on their
easy.
couch and wave a magic wand and say, okay, disappear like all my fears. No, life is life is tough, man. The mind is what controls your manifestations. It controls your behavior. It controls you, and it affects other people like a ripple. So it's like we just have to try to do everything we can to really amplify love, because deep in your soul is made of love. You are made of love. The power is love. Love is power. And when you love yourself to the point where you're like, I'm not going to let anyone or anything, try to, hurt me or whatever, um, you will find you're just going to get more healthier, and you're just going to, like, you're going to overcome like all these obstacles. Like, just like like, okay, I'll tell you a good story about law of attraction. My brother, it was his birthday on November 11th, and he, he didn't know that he was going to hit 1 million followers on the day of his birthday. But right when he woke him in the morning, boom, it was like a million people, exactly, precisely 1 million
That's
people
crazy.
was on his Facebook page. And it's like, that's not coincidence. That's like completely created by the universe, because my brother vibrates in high frequencies. He's vibrating pure love, pure joy, pure happiness, as much as that he possibly. I'm not saying I've seen Roger have bad days, man. Believe me, okay. I've seen him
Yep.
have it. I've seen him go through hard time, like, just like, sometimes he'll get really angry all of a sudden, but he'll overcome it very fast. But most of the time, he's vibing and very positive, loving, and pushing all this positivity. And so the universe gives him these signs. When you're vibing in negativity, the universe will give you signs. It'll say, you'll encounter something where it'll kind of stop you to try to stop thinking about those things, or say, hey, maybe I'm thinking about this too much. Look for those little signs. When you see 1111, when you see 444, when you see 555, whatever, when you see triple numbers or quadruple numbers, it's a sign from the universe telling you you're on the right path,
Very track.
or you're moving in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, like, you got to look at even sometimes I look at people's t-shirts, and sometimes those give me messages like, keep it cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'll see a t-shirt and it'll say something like, have a beautiful day, or just little things like that. Like, the
They're like
universe is always
reminders, yeah.
giving you these like little signs, like, on a daily basis. We just don't recognize them,
Mhm.
you know? And, when you really study like the law of attraction and how it functions, it's just about vibration. You're every single atom in your body, every single, electron in your body is vibrating. You're a vibrating mechanism that's living on this planet. Everything in this universe is based on vibration. Once you understand that, it's like when you're vibing high, more vibration of the same frequency is going to pair up, match with you, and you're going to be vibing in that frequency too. When you're vibrating in low frequency, it's a lot slower in terms of the manifestation, but that's what I'm saying. You just got to slowly, slowly let it go. But it's also, the universe gives you what you want. It does not judge you. It doesn't say, oh, he's been a bad person today, so I'm going to give him this. It doesn't work like that.
Mhm.
The law of attraction, the way it works is when you're vibing high, the vibration matches towards you, of the same thing that you're sending off. It's like a signal that you're sending off every single millisecond per day. Every single second that you're pushing out a frequency, the universe is giving you a similar thing. Not the exact same thing that you're thinking about, but something similar to
It's
you,
almost like I like to
to
compare it
create the
to,
twins.
if you're trying to trying to understand what it means, like about the frequency and connecting to the universe and stuff. Just imagine, the back in the day, like those old radios with a dial, and you're trying to find the exact spot to actually start listening to the radio station so that it's perfect. That's basically
Yeah,
what it is, right? You're
yeah,
like thinking of a thought, and the universe already knows what you're thinking about, right? But it's about you trying to fine tune it so that you can hit the exact same spot, right? So if your frequency is a low frequency and you're continuously thinking negative, but the universe is still waiting for you and saying, I got this for you. I got all these great things for you, but it's not, I can't connect with you, right? But if you start working on yourself and you start fixing the way you think and you start thinking more positive and you start focusing on those positive thoughts, hey, guess what? You're going to start getting closer to that exact spot where you can start connecting to the universe, and then the universe will give. That's why they say, sometimes when you think whatever you wish, you will receive, right? So, try that. When you start to figure out what are the things that you're going to need to do on a daily basis to fine tune the way you think, to fine tune the vibrations that you're releasing, that because the more positive you are, the more positive your frequency is going to be, right? Then you're going to be able to connect universe, and then you're going to start to see these amazing things happen to you, and then you're just going to be like, wow, this really works. They don't teach you this at school, right? Pat and I both learned it from YouTube back in the day, but it all makes sense. That is the law of attraction, right? The more you think of it and the more you believe in what you think of, the most important thing I think is your belief system. Because the more you believe on that specific thing, like you really truly have to 100% believe, right? Then you're going to connect to the universe, and then the universe is going to deliver to you, because you know
Well,
why? Because you're ready. You're ready.
yeah, like I
Right?
meditate a lot too, because meditation really helps you put you into that kind of calmness. And
Hmm.
you have to look at it this way. It's like the more calm you are, the more like the more calm you are in terms of your mind, where it's not thinking of anything. It's actually shifting your vibration higher and higher. So when you're laughing, that's when you're really like moving into really high frequencies, right? Your vibration is in a very high frequency. Or when people are experiencing, let's say, sex, right? Not all the time, but like when you're in love with someone, and you're having a sexual contact with them, or whatever, and that's when your aura field just like moves into like this really high vibration. But happiness is just joy, love, compassion. Like these emotions create like a you know a lot of people go, oh well, what am I going to use love and that feeling for? Well, when you're doing that, you're creating a frequency that is manifesting more similar things to it. You may
Hmm.
be thinking about love, and like you're thinking about your friend, and you're like, oh, remember that time when we had so much fun, it was awesome, and we were drinking and having so much fun. And then all of a sudden, the next day, your friend calls you up and says, "Oh, can we meet up? I want to like hang out with you again." And the person gives you a gift. It's like there's like that's how the universe kind of functions. It doesn't give you exactly what you want, but the more your mind thinks about positive thoughts, then the universe kind of just keeps propelling and giving you a frequency match.
Yeah, like I talk about the time when I started to start loving myself, and because my family was falling apart, right? But the more I was loving myself, the more I could see that my family started to affect the same way I was. Like
Oh
they
yeah,
started to smile. I like once I started smiling, they started smiling. Once I
yeah,
started laughing, they started to laugh. Then I started creating that. Remember how dark it was, Pat? When you step into my house, like you knew that it was just you don't even want to be inside, right? It was so quiet. Everyone was in their rooms. Sometimes you would hear someone cry. It was probably one of my kids, or it was me. But it's just like you will really do affect your environment. Like when you start to that love energy is so powerful, right? And I talk about Kona, our dog. When she came into our house, it changed everything, right?
yeah.
Kona, like it's that's how powerful love is. And that's why I talk about how loving yourself isn't a selfish act at all. It definitely isn't, right?
No,
Because that love that you're creating for yourself is going to affect other people as well, right? And you want that environment. You want those people to feel that love, right? It's going to be more enjoyable for you, and you're going to tell yourself that, you know, that's when I realized, when I always thought during that time when I was in my darkness, I hated the world so much. I had all these bad things to say about it, but at the end of it, when I found the light and I discovered what truly loving yourself is, you really see a different version of the world. Like it's not what you're always thinking about in your head. There
yeah.
is a
Someone
very,
someone
very,
actually
very
wrote in
beautiful
the
side.
room, like someone wrote in the room, like it's when you have like a problem, it's like it's how you perceive it, it's how you
Good
look
morning,
at it.
Dorinda.
It's so true. Like let's say like in the past, something I really feared about in the past, now I don't fear it at all. Like when I look back, I'm like, wow, I really
Mhm.
feared about that. Like so, it's like it's all your own your perspective, like how you
Yeah,
actually
totally. It's the perspective.
how you see it, right? How you see things. And that's sometimes when you go through a difficult experience, that's what I was also saying, like, previously. It's like after you overcome it, when you look back, when you experience again, or you look back, you're like, that doesn't scare me, or that doesn't freak me out. It's just, it is what it is, and you move on and you just have more positive thoughts. But I guess, like, sometimes we carry a lot of traumas, like, from since childhood, and when we and sometimes, like, okay, in when you're talking about your chakras, right? Like your pain body is in your lower chakra, right? So we carry a lot of these negative emotions, these negative belief systems, and they're in our kind of subconscious mind. And so when we have, let's say we're walking throughout the day and we're having a conversation, someone could say a single word that may trigger that belief
Hmm.
system, and you will start to feel like fear or anger, or you'll start to feel depressed or whatever, and you won't even know it, that it comes from maybe something that happened when you were 4 years old or 5 years old. So there's a lot of these kind of negative, like, lower belief systems that we carry with us until the day that we're no longer here. And really, about this life is about really trying to let go of those energies, like letting go of those frequencies. And sometimes they'll come up by accident. Like, Roger,
Hmm.
when you're saying to me that you went through this really difficult time in, you were kind of going through these things in your life, that a lot of, maybe some anger or certain kind of fears or certain kind of worries that you've carried for so long, but you didn't even really kind of know it until you actually
Didn't.
had the accident. And after you
Hmm.
had the accident, you started spewing, like, all this, like, kind of, a lot of anger and a lot of
No filter.
concern and worry, and you kind of had to get it all out of your system. And it's like you
Hmm.
didn't even know you were carrying all this pain and struggle.
Yeah.
But when you let it all go, then you then you
Oh,
then you became the true,
yeah.
authentic Roger Lee that you've been really wanting to be, and now you're living
Mhm.
what you want to be. But if you didn't go through those really hard
Exactly.
experiences, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing today, right?
Yeah.
So
I totally believe that. I mean, it's like 1% chance because I, ne- I I never thought I was a good writer. I never thought I'd ever, write quotes or motivate people. I was always actually ever since I was a kid, I was always interested in people, but I didn't know why. I was always intrigued by them, and I don't know. I just always wanted to help. But I didn't think I that was my passion. And when I found out that what I'm doing, like waking up in the morning and wanting to help people, is such an amazing feeling. And knowing the fact that someone can tell me that, hey, Roger, you changed my life. What you're doing is incredibly, like, you're an angel. I'm just like, oh my gosh, those words mean so much to me. So that's why I love doing what I do. And
yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I just, like, when I was just looking at your Facebook page, and I was scrolling down looking at the quotes, and I
yeah.
saw, like, one post you did had, like 13,000 shares. And I'm just
Oh,
like, think how many people, like, are reading, like, 13,000 shares, but times that by, like, how many of those other people that they shared it to, and the amount of
hmm,
positivity, even if it's for that split second where they read it and they go, oh man, I understand what he's talking about. Or it makes them feel like, just in that 1 hour, that they felt a certain level of positivity,
right.
that maybe they were talking to their mom on the phone and treated her better because of your quote. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, so, like, everything is linked together. We're all connected. And,
Yeah.
it's like you're either vibing in, like, negative or positive. No judgment. There's no judgment whether you're doing either or. But do we want to, like, vibe positive or negative, and how do we want to affect other people? You know what I mean? And how do we want it to affect ourselves? So, yeah, I just think through your own journey, like, I personally have learned, like, a lot of things about the experience, and it's
Mhm.
helped me also understand, like, how I want to continue, like, my life and my journey. I remember sometimes, when I was feeling down, you're like, Pat, just pick up some weights, like, just grind it, like,
Start
shoulder
working
grind
out.
and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
yeah, and I'm just starting to get back into that now.
Good. Good.
So I'm really excited to, like, get back to, working out again. Like, I'm gonna start stretching, but But eventually I'm going to get back into like, working out and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think what's great is like, I, one thing I'm really lucky is that I have amazing friends. Like my
Yeah,
friends are
that's
so
so true.
awesome and they're so loving and they're so caring. Um, and I have a great
That's
family
my
that,
dog.
that loves me as well. But yeah, it's if you don't have that, I know it's tough. I know it's difficult. Like when you don't have that tie in, where you have friends and family that could really be there for you. But I'll tell you what, you can get a dog or you can get a
Yeah,
cat
if
or
Shell you're on, you know that, right,
there's other
Dean?
ways. There's other ways. Like, my
Totally.
dog, yeah, my dog brings me joy every single day. Roger's dog brings him joy every single day. If you're
Always
feeling
looking for new
down
ones
and
that
you
I
have
love you
no
have it.
one,
Then I get it. Oh,
yeah, I would say definitely get like a pet because a pet will definitely cheer you up big time. You know.
Dorinda asked a question, says, do I look in the mirror and say I love you? Yes, that I do. I think it's so important to do that. Even if you don't say it out loud, just look in yourself and, just tell yourself how much you appreciate yourself for how far you've gotten. How, like life is tough, right? And it's not easy being a human being, right? So sometimes if you're not getting appreciation from else from other people, you can talk to yourself in the mirror and appreciate and tell yourself how much that you love yourself and how much you appreciate yourself. It makes such a big difference. It really does. Once you start, because not every day you're going to hear someone compliment you or tell you good things about you, right? And sometimes you just want to hear that. But you can tell that to yourself. Remember, you can say that to yourself. Hey, Roger, you did a great job today. Roger, I'm so proud of you. Those are the things you could tell yourself, and it will really make a difference, right? That's why for my quotes, I kind of do that for my quotes, so it actually sounds like I'm talking to you. So it feels like, hey, you know what, Roger actually said that. Be proud of yourself. So it's all the way you think up here. Oh man, what time is it there for you?
Yeah,
Just let me know
I
when you have to
actually,
go, eh, Pat?
yeah, I have to head out because I have to wake up at 5 in the morning because our dog has to go to the vet, a few
Oh,
hours
right,
after
right.
that. So yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately, I have to head out and crash, get some sleep. Yeah,
Well,
but
we'll definitely do another one of these. I think it was very successful, and I think hopefully you guys learned
that was
something
fun.
from
Yeah,
our live. And but I'll let you know, Pat. Let me know whenever you're available again, and then we'll set up another one of these YouTube lives. And it was great seeing you. I mean, I talk to you every single day, but I don't always get a chance to do. We don't always get a chance to do video chat or whatever. But kids are
cool,
waiting for
cool.
you to come back to Toronto. You have to bring Nikki.
Yeah,
It's been like, well, how long?
been too long.
4 years?
Yeah, about 4 years.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
COVID hit. Because you were actually
yeah.
just gonna see us, and then love you, Joanne, too. Thank you, everybody. Joanne, Dorinda, John, Bernadette, DJ, everybody for sticking and watching the live. If you enjoyed today's live, Pat says he's going to come back. We're going to do more of these. I mean, I had a great time today, Pat. So it was great seeing you.
Yeah,
You're very
man.
welcome, Dottie, and you, Dottie, and
Thank you
Diana.
everyone for for sticking around and joining in and chiming in.
Kelly. Okay. Message me when you wake up, Pat.
All right. Take care, everyone, and
Bye,
enjoy
guys.
your
Enjoy
evening,
your
afternoon,
weekend.
or night. Okay.
Okay.
Bye, guys. See you.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.